Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the ARW Weekly. This is a special edition, the Transfer Deadline Day, and we have some ecstatic fans on the podcast today. I am joined by Mr. Jonathan, Phil, Craig, and Asif. Before we get going, I just want to make a shout out to Pain Solutions Lim. Thank you so much for sponsoring us and continuing to contribute to the family. For all our followers and listeners out there, you can find him at painsolutions.lim.co.uk. So that's a massive shout out there. I think we should first of all get to a very controversial topic for the ARW crew, and that is, where is Virgil van Dijk? So I'm going to pose this question over to Jonathan first. Where are you hiding him, Jonathan?
Oh, unfortunately, it seems like he's stuck in a black van in Southampton, doesn't it? Southampton have won probably one of the biggest games of poker in transfer wars. They've dug their heels, and unfortunately, it looks like they're going to hang on to their man, whether he plays or not for them. He's going to remain a Southampton player at least till January. Very, very frustrating. All the signs were that we were going to get this one over the line. We were quite open about it as well. We pretty much we were quite open that we thought the deal would go down. We've been told by some very good sources that the deal would get over the line, and sources that have been correct about through a lot of the transfer dealings this summer and previously as well. The general feeling was last night, I think every Liverpool fan woke up this morning with hope and excitement that we would get this over the line, but unfortunately, for whatever reasons, we'll have to. Obviously, it's just breaking now at the moment. But when the dust settles, we will kind of do a bit of nitpicking and find out exactly what happened. We'll have some shows coming up where we'll be able to discuss it further in depth. But for now, the unfortunate news is that Van Dijk stays at Southampton. It's really, really frustrating because he was the number one. There's no bones about it. He was the one person that I wanted to bring to the club this summer, and I think I speak for a lot of Liverpool fans when I state that. You didn't need to be a genius to see that our defence was an area we needed strengthening from last season, and we failed to do that. Van Dijk would have been the perfect addition to the team. He had every attribute that we needed and that was required for our system. He's ticks all the boxes. It's just very, very frustrating. There's no ways. I'm not going to dress it up or dress it down. It is very, very frustrating.
Couldn't agree with you more there, Jonathan. I think having Van Dijk as our number one centre back option and pursuing him vigorously all summer to come to an end like this is quite the anticlimax. And although fans, podcast listeners, abuse is not needed. We all know it's a very emotional time at this moment in time. The most important thing is that we move on as a football club and, we respect the decisions made by all parties. But Craig, I want to come over to yourself. Nathaniel Klein, Ricky Lambert, Adam Lallana, Dejan Lovren. Southampton have been so open to selling us some of their best players in the past. Just where did it go wrong on this occasion?
It seemed to be a window where nobody was budging with that player that they said at the start. It was a game of brinksmanship that nobody blinked. Just to kind of touch on what Jonathan said, look, we have to put our hands up on this one. We made the decision to post that we believed the deal was done pending a medical. We genuinely 100% believe that to be the case. We're the ones that posted it, so look, we accept the criticisms. We posted what we posted and we're not going to hide away from it. But getting back to your question, Keith, it's really strange because if you would have asked me last night, I would have been adamant that Sanchez was gone, that he was going to end up at Man City. I was obviously adamant that we were going to sign Virgil van Dijk. I probably would have expected... I never had any clue about Lamar. I'm going to be honest there. Like, it's not even a transfer. I was so obsessed with the Van Dijk thing that I wasn't even following much about Lamar. But some stuff is probably going to come out over the next couple of days from clubs and people closer to the deals that will let us know, because I think there's going to be a lot of unhappy players floating around as well who are going to have to go back into dressing rooms that they weren't expecting to. And it's going to be very interesting to see how tomorrow works out at Liverpool with the Spanish window still being open.
That's very right indeed. The Spanish window is definitely open, and with Phil Coutinho still trying to force a move just in a similar vein to Van Dijk, it could be possible that tomorrow we may lose one of our best players. And I want to come over to you, Phil, because I know how you feel about the owners. I know how you feel about FSG, and while we're touching on the subject of Van Dijk, how much of this is down to the owners' abilities to work deals with clubs?
Depends who you listen to, I suppose, doesn't it? But I mean, you're right. I'm not a massive fan. Two things I'd say, kind of touched on what the other guys have said. I actually understand some of the abuse. I don't appreciate it, but I understand some of the abuse because I am just as frustrated as the next fan. As Jono said, we were told something by somebody credible. We believed it to be true. We actually had a discussion because we don't usually share information for this very reason. And we actually had a discussion and said, actually, guys, this looks nailed on. We trust the person, so let's share it. And I absolutely understand the frustration of the fans. I'm certainly feeling it. So for me, this transfer window has been crazy. The amount of money that's been spent has been nuts. But I'm going to try and keep a lid on it tonight so I don't absolutely explode. But let's just look at the amount of money we have spent on players compared to some of the prices that other players are going for. If you want to fucking tell me that we were that close to signing Van Dijk for 70 million and we're going in for Lamar for 65 million, yet our most expensive signing is 35 million. Fuck off, FSG. I'm not playing this game anymore. Stop. You're leaking shit to the press. People are believing it, including me. And I think that's why I'm mostly frustrated, because I have spent the last, I'm going to say 6 to 12 months thinking everything they say is complete bollocks and I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. And swept up in the emotion of this transfer and the emotion of this transfer window and all the leaks that are coming out, I too you heard me on the pod last night. I was buzzing. I was absolutely buzzing. I'm thinking, we're in for Lamar. We're going after Van Dijk. Personally, I was going to be chuffed with Van Dijk. Absolutely chuffed, because we are crying out for a centre-back. So instead, we tap up a centre-back, piss off a club, find the person that we want, still don't manage to get the deal across the line, publish some pathetic fucking small bollocked apology, run away like little girls fucking crying in the corner, wait for other teams to come back and talk to him. The player then turns down those clubs because he wants to join for us. It's still not enough, so he hands in a transfer request, completely upsetting the apple cart and jeopardising his career where he is at Southampton, where he is their captain. I mean, how there's any way back for this lad, I have no idea at this point. And we don't even have the decency to put a fucking offer in for him. That is disgusting. And then we let Sacco go. So not only have we not signed a world-class centre-back, we've let a fucking international centre-back leave. So
have you guys
they can fuck off, seriously. I've had enough of them now. They can absolutely get fucked.
Have you just read what Chris Bascom is just basically just coming up on Twitter now? He says, Klopp was frustrated with attempts to add Virgil van Dijk to his squad as Southampton would not entertain negotiations. Liverpool's hopes of securing Van Dijk were effectively scuppered following the fallout of their initial attempts in June. Club owners FSG assured the Southampton hierarchy that they would not make any approach unless invited.
So that would be to my next question to you, Asif.
Yeah.
Were the club naive to believe that at any point during the time of the apology and the end of the transfer window that Southampton would try and entertain a deal for Van Dijk instead of actually going out there and finding alternative targets for us to maybe get a little bit more excited about?
No, honestly, I stick with what I said at the start of the window. Is that at some point they thought, oh shit, he's chosen us and we have to pay £60 million or whatever it is. And everything else after that has just been a game. A lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people actually agree with that. But the facts are the facts. He chose us. Somebody leaked something to the media, which is exactly what Chris Bascom has just said down himself.
I wonder who that would be.
Why? I've said this before. When was the last time Liverpool beat Manchester City and Chelsea to a player like that? Such a sought out centre back, and somebody then releases it to the media, and well, quite possibly. And your original question was, why have they stopped selling us to us now? You named all the other players. Why now?
Because we're dickheads and we negotiate transfers like absolute bellends. We try and rip people off and fuck about and then leak stuff to the press because we're absolute bellends. That's why.
Or that we don't want to do the deal. I mean, you can call it a conspiracy theory. You can call it what you want.
Not a conspiracy theory. A spade is a spade. A conspiracy theory is we miss out on one player in one window and we come up with some bullshit reason that our owners didn't negotiate it properly or they were leaking something. That's a conspiracy theory. Happening again and again and again and again and again over repeated windows is not a theory.
Exactly. Lemar yesterday was just another Diego Costa released to the media, the leak to the media, or the Konoplyanka, the Villian, or whatever. People go into France on a yacht, or it was the same old shit. Just it wasn't Ian Air on a Harley this time. It was whatever else. It just is the same old crap, and it keeps coming out and out and out and out. And some people can see it, some people can't see it. It's just like you say, why get people's hopes up in the first place? I think that's the bit that's really pissing a lot of people off. Why even leak this crap to the media? Why not just say nothing?
But that's why, because they've basically kept an entire window of people on the edge, not applying pressure to them. Yeah, so you've basically kept them looking at what's going on over here in the right hand while the left hand does something else. And what will happen now is the same bullshit that happens all the time, which will be, can't do anything about it now. We went in hard for the targets. We're unfortunate we missed out on them. That tweet for me sums it up perfectly. I was waiting for it, and I'm actually gutted I didn't get this comment in before you read that message. I was waiting for we tried so hard, but the other clubs wouldn't budge bullshit drivel that's going to come out now. And then you know what happens over the next couple of days? Transfer window shut. Can't do anything about it now. Let's get behind the boys. Let's support the team. Let's support what we've got. Rinse and fucking repeat.
Passions and emotions are very high this evening between all of us. And, absolutely 100%, we can all agree that it is definitely going to be a frustrating next couple of days as more information is leaked about the reasons as to why we didn't get Virgil van Dijk. And look, at the end of the day, I suppose the most important thing is now that, sadly, as Liverpool fans, we kind of all have to put a positive spin on the situation, whether we agree with the owners or not. So my next question, Craig, is how do you feel the general window has gone for Liverpool Football Club? We've got a striker in, a winger, a new left back, and 2 central midfielders. What would your assessment be on our transfer business this summer?
It's really tough to say now because in the cold light of day it'll be a lot easier to judge what happens here. Salah is a gift of a signing. I couldn't be any happier with the choice we made there for a winger. Robertson is a completely understandable signing, and will probably turn out to be a very useful player. The one that makes it hard to judge, Keith, is Keita, isn't it really? Because on one hand you're saying it is really good business by the club, and I'd rather have him next season than not have him at all. But it just, for me, it all depends on tomorrow, doesn't it? It just all depends on what happens with Coutinho. There's no shying away from it. If Coutinho leaves, there will be a lot of unhappy people. I think it's really tough to say because
they can't. My head is no.
They can't.
My
they can't sell him. How can
you
they?
Can't sell him. You can't sell him. And then my head is going, it's FSG. They can sell him. They can sell him.
No, the fact that Lamar didn't come in the door, I think means we have to keep on to him.
The thing
I think even that's going to piss me. And it's not going to piss me off that we keep him because I really like Phil, and I've made that abundantly clear. I love Phil.
Phil's a bollocks.
But I think I'm lovely. But what I would say is, it's going to be dressed up as it's like a new fucking signing. It's not like a new fucking signing. James Milner moving from left back to midfield is not like a new fucking signing. Phil Coutinho stayed in the same club where he fucking was. Is not a new
fucking start signing. About that question again, Jonathan, for fuck's sake.
I'm sick of this like it's new signing. What do we do? Should we just go and give all the players fucking haircuts and say it's like a new fucking signing?
Look what you caused, Jonathan. Look what you caused.
I'm responsible for all.
Well, maybe I think bottom line really is Klopp had 2 main targets this transfer window. One's not signing till next summer, and one hasn't signed. So how can you call that window a success?
It's not even that he hasn't signed, Asif. It's that it's the way he hasn't signed. Like we completely just pussied out of this. If fucking
Yeah, we haven't been.
if PSG can go and buy Neymar and fucking Kylian Mbappe in the window and not worry about repercussions from fucking UEFA, then we can certainly say we want to buy Virgil van Dijk. Here's a bit.
That's the bit that gets me, because we weren't the only fucking ones. What about Chelsea? What about Manchester City? They clearly spoke to him as well. Yeah. We're saying, oh, sorry, look at us. And it's like they've got a reason now not to bid. It just doesn't make sense.
Let's just ignore Van Dijk not ignore him, but ignore the fact we haven't signed him for 1 minute. Keith, you mentioned before that we didn't go back. I think it was you. You mentioned that we didn't go back in for him because we were waiting for an invitation. We were waiting for Southampton to invite us over for crumpets and tea, and we'll have a fucking discussion about this player. Right? How long ago did that apology come out? 4 weeks ago, something like that.
It must be longer than that, actually. Middle of June, I think it was. Middle of June.
Where's Plan B? And I don't mean the shitty rapper. I mean, where is the fucking Plan B?
This is the question. Were we naive to wait for them to invite us for tea and crumpets? Jonathan, were we naive to wait that long? And following on from that, do you echo the sentiments of the lads? Have we missed a trick here this summer?
Oh, well, that one answers itself because it was just waiting. And despite all the spin Southampton are going to put out and acting big to their fans or whatever, I've no doubt if the offer went in this evening, they would have accepted it. If we put in a decent offer this evening, they would have accepted it, and they would have put some spin on it, back and forth, blah, 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 blah. But I've no doubt it would have been accepted. Of course, we've missed a trick. The other part to me is kind of torn. Klopp is notorious stubborn. I think we've seen that with numerous examples. And he seems to have this vision of such a... I would even go and class it as a family unit. It's not even team or squad. A tight-knit family unit. He will only bring in a certain type of player if he fully believes they're going to be addition to the squad. He's very much, I'm not just going to buy any player for the sake of it. So I really do think, I'm sure the question went to him, if we can't get Van Dijk, do you want someone else? And I'm pretty confident. This is no inside information. This is me talking. I'm pretty confident that he would have said no.
If he looked at Klavan and Lovren and said no, then he has to take some responsibility for this.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. Because for all their failings, I think there's money there that would have been spent. Now, you can argue the whole, should they put it? Of course, they should have put in a bid. But I think if Klopp had, put it this way, I think if Klopp had gone to the lads and said, look, I want to buy this player, put in the bid for this, I think they would have done it, because I think he has that aura, he's that swagger with him. He would have pushed him to do so. I think Klopp definitely kind of not reneged, but kind of held back a bit. He wanted Van Dijk, and he didn't want anyone else.
Do you know what is a very clever signing though? Whilst we're on this, so we're talking about Naby. Now we've already said that Naby Keita is a very clever signing. Naby Keita is now looking a very clever signing for another reason as well, which is that it's probably going to be the one saving grace that they've got, and that the FSG in-lot can hold on to this summer. That we got the deal done early for Naby Keita, and it is a great piece of business. But they're also going to dine out on that next summer when he joins. That Naby Keita has joined Liverpool. So
yeah, they're going to get the reward
twice.
2 for 1.
It's a very very interesting point. I mean, Naby Keita is already looking like he's going to be a world beater. From a personal perspective, my only concern is who's Naby Keita being brought in to replace in that central midfielder. We have far too many midfielders in the team. Who is he going to be taking the place next season? Is he brought in as a replacement for Coutinho? Is he brought in for a replacement for Emre Can? Asif, what's your thoughts on this? Oxlade-Chamberlain, Naby Keita. We now have a plethora of midfielders playing in that position. Who have they been brought in to ultimately replace?
Mate, I think the only thing crystal clear is that he is coming in to replace somebody, and I think that's the biggest problem that we have. It's always 1 in, 1 out, 1 in, 1 out, or 1 in, 2 out. We're never building on anything, which is the thing that actually grates the most. We're so close, and whether it's Klopp not choosing a centre-back or somebody not wanting to pay for a centre-back or whatever, the frustration is even more this summer because we can see how good we are and how good we can be. Keita's coming in next summer. Who's he going to... I honestly, it would just be guesswork. But I think the bigger issue is the fact that he has to come in to replace somebody. Full stop. because that is the bit that's really, really pissing a lot of people off about this current ownership. They proclaim X, Y, and Z. We will buy this. We've got £150 million spree on the last day, £200 million at the beginning of the frigging window, when they have no fucking intention of actually.
Although they've never actually said that publicly. What they've done is use their mouthpieces that they've leaked this to,
exactly.
And then they can hide behind the fact that we never said it. All these journalists just randomly came up with the same figure on the same fucking day.
Exactly. Who told them that? So I think that's the biggest problem. So he's going to come in, somebody's going to go, and that's the biggest problem now. Every time a player signs under their ownership, we're going to think, okay, we're going to build him up, and we're going to sell him on.
That is, well, not even that. Every time we sign a decent player, you go, awesome, we've signed him. Who's it replacing?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. One thing I want to touch on, Phil, you brought it up earlier on, and I think it was probably the other controversial story that was brewing within the Liverpool community this summer, and that has been the rise of the ITKs.
Oh yeah, let's talk about ITKs.
Now it's definitely a topic that, you know, if you're a Liverpool fan and you're on Twitter, you probably know the word ITK more than any other fan in the country. So Phil, I'd like to go to you first. You just touched on the fact that FSG used mouthpieces.
Yes,
do you believe that this season has been an acceleration of mouthpieces, and just how effective or otherwise have ITKs been in our pursuit of targets?
Oh, God. Yes, we've definitely seen an increase in mouthpieces, and because of that, we've also seen an increase in ITKs. I think the funny thing is, if you want to call it funny, I mean, it's not funny, is it? But it's the best word I can use right now. The funny thing is, journalists are paid to write this stuff, and they need sources, and they need stories, and they need stuff from the club, right? So the club giving them a story and saying, here, this is what you should say, is good for them. And if you don't do it, and you keep causing problems for the club, they stop telling you stuff, and the well of information dries up, and that causes you a problem professionally. Where the interesting people come in is the people that aren't paid to do this. They just talk about it like they know what's going on whilst they're on break at Tesco's or whatever. And, you know, they've messaged their mate that works at Liverpool, who's the cleaner, to Hendo's dog or some shit, and they know everything that's going on. What I would also say is the vast majority of people, and I'm not including myself in this by any stretch of imagination, but I mean, I hear little bits, but I mean little bits. But the vast majority of people that I know that are actually pretty well connected to the club do not talk about it online, because you get absolutely slated. So I shared something a few weeks ago that I heard, and it was something that I genuinely believed, so I shared it, and I got slated. We did the same yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, when we've heard this. We've actually sat down and had a conversation together, and I don't know whether people believe that or not, but we must have spoken for about an hour. John O'Craig, you'll back me up with that, about the fact that we don't go out and talk about these things because it's not our place to do so. But we were so confident because of who this had come from and what was being said that we wanted to share it with fellow Reds. Now, we could have just sat on that information ourselves. And if Van Dijk had signed, we'd have known ahead of everybody else, and we'd have been quite smug. But trying to be good fans, we've gone out and talked about it and shared the excitement, because if somebody else knew, we'd want to know. So we just did the same thing. But now we're, you know, I mean, I'm looking at our Twitter feed, and some of the stuff is fine. Some of the stuff is horrendous. Some of you need to really give yourself a slap across the face and get some perspective. But ITKs have caused a massive issue. And the reason they've caused a massive issue is that every time somebody now says something, credible or not, you're having to make a decision as a fan, snap decision on a person that you don't know behind a Twitter account. Are they telling me this because it's true and they want other fans to know? Or are they telling me this because they're trying to get followers because they sit and masturbate about how many people have retweeted something?
Mate, I think the other issue, the deeper issue, really is, I mean, what actually is a journalist these days? You know, you're talking about the rise of ITKs. Would there be as many if journalists actually did what they were meant to do, which is not just feed off the scraps that they get from different clubs or whatever else, but actually report on facts? So, you know, actually report, so-and-so is, the actual truth, get to the actual bottom of it, because they don't, and everyone sees through that crap. Hence, these ITKs are growing and growing and growing and growing because everyone thinks that these journalists are just telling people, they're basically pawns in negotiation for the clubs.
I was going to say, just on that piece, Steve, actually, that is an awesome, awesome thing to say about journalists, and I couldn't agree with you more. And a prime example of that from this week alone is the fact that a load of journalists were talking about how much money we had to spend. They're all talking about the same sort of players. There was loads that came out this morning and said that we were going to have a massive day and spend loads of money, and it was all roughly around the same figure, but nobody called the Cater deal for next year ahead of time.
Exactly.
Not one.
Exactly. And that's their job. That's why call me old school. That's why I used to pick up the paper.
So the stuff that the club don't want you to know, like the fact that Navigator is about to sign because they don't want to cause that problem, that didn't get given. So a journalist just sat on their ass typing things now, waiting for the club to pick up the phone and call them, or are they actually doing investigations and looking into stuff?
Well, exactly. Investigation, that's the word. What are they? Are they puppets or are they investigators? Because it sounds to me that they just, the club will jump. How high? Okay, what do you want us to say? Okay, you've got a front row seat to the next press conference or whatever.
Yeah.
It's an absolute joke. These guys, these so-called Liverpool journos, James Pearce, Neil Jones, whoever they are, even the other ones, they need to do the fucking job and say, why did this Van Dijk deal fail? Not this crap that the club's telling them to basically churn out. Go look into it.
Southampton were mean to us.
Well, whatever it was, whatever the facts are, people don't get the facts. So ITKs think, well, hang on, this is a bit of a niche here. Let's feed some shit because obviously people know that the journalists are just talking orchestrated nonsense.
So Craig, it's been all fun and games this summer, and obviously we have a kind of a negative opinion of the ITKs to a certain extent. I mean, what's your take on it? Because in one sense, yes, absolutely, leaking news and information could harm deals that go through. But on another day, it's made my Twitter feed entertaining to watch throughout the time that we had an off season. What's your thoughts on the whole issues? And again, is it something that is an issue? Is it great for entertainment value? Or should, ITKs be a bit more subtle with how they release information out to the public?
It depends on what way you want to look at Twitter, I suppose. There's some accounts out there that, look, it's hard to talk about ITKs when we're after getting our pants pulled down over a transfer and we posted what we posted. So we have to take everything with a pinch of salt. The difference is, though, we're here owning up to it. A lot of these accounts will be deleting tweets.
And we said one thing, mate. We said one thing that we genuinely believe was true. We're not coming up with a new story every couple of hours.
Some accounts will be deleting tweets, some accounts will be backtracking. We're putting our hands up. But in answer to your question, it depends what you want. If you want that bit of entertainment, if you want that bit of fun, if you're not taking everything too seriously, then some of these IT accounts, like Indicator, for instance, I think that's the guy's name. Everybody knows what his account is at this point. He goes with it. It's a bit of fun, and if you're believing that type of account, then you really need to get your head checked, because
that's the biggest issue, isn't it?
It's a comedy account at this point, and it's great. Don't get me wrong; he does some really good stuff. Yeah, he does some very good stuff. And he's had some really funny interactions. But there's some people, I suppose, who are doing it maliciously, and they're people that I'd be a little bit upset about, because if you're posting something you believe is true once in a blue moon or once or twice, fair enough, but if you're posting it just for likes and retweets constantly, that's off. Now, nobody can say we didn't expect to receive some retweets and some followers from posting about Van Dijk. Of course we did. We're not going to sit here and lie and be stupid about it. But as Phil said, it was something we did once and not to build up our account, because our account was built up already. So I'm on the fence. I don't mind them, to be fair, but I really would love to know if it does interfere with the club in any way, shape, or form. That's something I'd love to know. I hate
everyone today. I just hate everybody. And the club.
Jonathan, and final word on this one before we move on, hopefully to something a bit more positive. Jonathan, when you grow up, did you always want to be an ITK?
Jesus. Considering I'm not an ITK, I have to grow up then. You said I'm still a little kid. Look, It's not just ITK. It's a bigger discussion that we'll have to talk about perhaps another day. It's more about the kind of modern society and social media, how it's overtaken our lives, and the way that's going. And that's everything from sport, from news, how you get your news, how you live your life. Everything now is social media. Social media that it's become your personal life. It's become advertising. It's become where you get your news, where you get your transfer news. You keep up to date with everything. That's just a general discussion. We're living in an age where people want to find out this hour's news 2 hours ago. Everyone wants to know on a need to know basis. They want it instantaneously, and football journalism is struggling to keep up. And you see the whole divide now, where at times, so look at it all week. If you compare your Twitter timeline to Sky Sports News, there's been about a 20-minute, half an hour lag each time. Look at Chamberlain's announcement yesterday. All the journalists had it for about 20 minutes before it was announced on. You got the yellow bar, so that's kind of a whole thing. And then you have spin coming out from the club. Then you have journalists that are quite closely linked to the club, and they don't want to step on their toes. They're used as pawns. They have to put out spin for the club. It's a whole bigger discussion, really, and you could literally talk for hours on it. ITKs, on you go, mate.
And I suppose get one point while it's just fresh in my head about ITKs. It's a bit of a curveball. How do we know that these ITKs aren't actually part of the club and deliberately leading people out?
Oh gosh,
the Matrix.
There you go.
But they hide behind parodies and everything else. You just don't know. Clubs aren't idiots. They perhaps want people to think. You just don't know. It's just such a deep issue.
It does happen as well. So I mean, using an example that's away from sport, and I'm not going to name the company because I'll end up getting sued or something. But there is a review site, a very popular review site out there.
Do I work for them?
Possibly. On When You're Drunk. There is a review site out there that is designed for mere mortals like you and me to review places, things, events, that kind of thing online and write an honest review about it for other people to see. I can tell you categorically, because I've done some of the work, that there are premium subscribers to that service, i.e. companies, that have reviews created for them because they paid a package to obtain that review. So if that's happening on a review site, do we honestly think that hundreds of millions of pounds worth of business in a football club such as Liverpool aren't utilising similar tactics? I think that'd be rather naive to think that we don't do it in some capacity. Do I think that every ITK on Twitter is actually sat at the offices of Liverpool? No, of course I don't. No, of course I don't. But the fact that there is an entire department there whose job it is to drip feed information to be that ITKs and certainly journalists to write what they want them to write. I think that's probably it sounds a little bit conspiracy theory-ish, but I think there's probably a lot of truth in it.
Well, some great answers there, gentlemen. Some really, really great answers. And, as we said in the beginning of the podcast, we do hold our hands up to the information that we did receive and didn't come through. But like we've just done there, we are more than happy to discuss the debate and bring it to the attention. And, your responses are all welcome to what has been quite an emotive subject over this summer. I want to get to some more exciting, a bit more lift the mood up a bit. At the end of the day, Liverpool have made signings, right? And one of the signings that we've made signings. We've started the season 5 games unbeaten, right? So we're definitely heading in the right direction. With that in mind, 2 clean sheets. Who so far, out of the Liverpool players, out of the new signings, has impressed you the most? Craig, I'm going to go to you.
Is this even a question?
I know. How is that a question?
Okay, I'll give you 2 answers.
No. Mo.
Yeah.
Firstly, on behalf of all of us, Keith, we got to say that we feel we owe you an apology because you were on holidays for the last week and you come home on your first podcast back. You're apologising, so we owe you that apology. But
actually, what Keith doesn't tell you is that he actually sent that tweet and then had his phone accidentally stolen, so he couldn't delete it.
That's real ITK stuff there.
Proper.
It's got to be Salah, but apart from Salah, who's just the obvious answer, Who has impressed? Solanke, I think. Yeah, I think Solanke's going to be a dark horse. Nobody knows how much we're going to get him for yet because, tribunals can go from 3 to 9 million, so we don't know. But it's going to be a reasonable sum. I think we can say that.
Even that's a bargain.
Absolutely. And it speaks highly that Origi went out on loan. Klopp must have high hopes for him, so he's impressed me. Absolutely.
So let me spice up the question again because it's actually been a plethora of signings. Both new signings and current players, some who have risen from the dead.
You're not getting me to say Mignolet. You're not getting me to say Mignolet.
Damn it! I've been exposed. But no, just in general, who's really stood out for you? Aside, obviously, Mo Salah being the obvious choice amongst us podcasters. Who else do you think's really kind of stood out in these first 5 games?
Emre Can.
Mane.
Can.
Moreno,
I had
Robertson.
my doubts about Emre Can, but I always thought he was a great player, but I had my doubts about him and Henderson, about him being on par with Henderson. But if he keeps going and playing the way he is, he will be a fantastic player.
Be a great signing for you, babe.
He will.
Fuck off. Not this window.
Yeah, that's true.
It's okay, we have catered to replace him.
Honestly, God.
No, but you have to say it's the front three that are the saving life for this window, really, because we've got to a stage now where we're playing blistering football and Coutinho isn't even around to be missed, even. You'd have to say to that. We now have a credible front three to do a lot of damage going forward. Obviously, Van Dijk and the whole defensive issues. We'll have to see how that steadies over the course of time. But going forward now, I think we're more. I would go this strongly. Our front three now at the moment is a hell of a lot better than it was last season with Coutinho playing in the top 3. I think we've more.
I think a large part of that is down to Firmino. I think he's improved so much.
I think he has, and I think he's helped now that he has 2 genuine speed merchants either side of him. And I think that helps our midfield as well. And I think it's allowing the likes of Henderson and say Chan to a lesser extent, it's allowing them more freedom now and to go about their play, because we now have that fear factor. Teams are really, really going to be scared of us. We're going to be able to push teams, without getting too nerdy into it, we're going to be able to push teams high and wide up the pitch. And that just allows more freedom, and it just takes the pressure off the whole team. So that is definitely, I would say, that's a huge strength of the team on last season.
Yeah, I think a key part of that is Firmino. I mean, you're talking about players that have impressed at the beginning of the season. He's obviously seems to have taken the next step up. Fingers crossed, long may it continue. But again, just what you're talking about, the worry would be if he gets injured, because he brings so much of the team together. The way he holds it up, the way he runs the line. I don't think Sturridge can do that. Solanke, question mark. So yeah, I think Roberto Firmino, for me anyway, he's been first 5 games he's been absolutely brilliant.
Right, you know what? You just hit the nail on the head there for me. And this is. I mean, everyone will have different opinions on this, but my personal opinion. That's why I'm so upset about this transfer window, because I'm not saying that we needed to replace a load of shitty members of the squad. Honest to God, I think the main position we needed was a decent centre-back. We haven't got that. But actually, going back to the game against Arsenal, for example, and the game at Hoffenheim, both of which I was fortunate enough to be there, we had a fantastic team and a fantastic squad, and we can do a bloody good job and play some really good football. But that's exactly why this is so frustrating. Champions League, apparently we've got the money there. This is the time. Stop the 1-in, 1-out bullshit. This is the time when we now really strengthen our squad to prepare for the fact that these injuries will happen. Once again, we are going into a season hoping to God that some key players don't get injured. And if they do, it's not for too long. Here we are during international break where inevitably some Liverpool player will get injured and we will be gutted. Lallana is a massive miss to the squad. Now, I'm not saying that you can have 2 players for every position. I'm not naive. I'm well aware that the situation is you need a replacement, but that you're never going to have a team full of starting 11 players. That you have to have squad players. And I think we touched on this the other day, and I genuinely believe that. But I think for me, that is the single biggest frustration. Ignore the ITK, PR, drivel bullshit. It's the fact that we haven't seized an opportunity that we had being in the Champions League, to take this fantastic squad that we've got and give them the support that both they and the manager deserves to challenge for trophies.
Very, very interesting point. I'd personally go with Sadio Mane. I think Sadio Mane is one. It's almost like that injury never happened. I was worried that after such a big injury with such a large amount of time lost, that he would end up coming back a little bit slow, a little bit less sharp. But he's done the absolute opposite, and I think he is well on his way to my prediction that he will be player of the season.
The next one sold.
And the next one sold for
First one off to Barcelona.
Cash.
Hey, will you stop
No,
trying
I
to
just
rush?
wanna
We
make-
haven't told Coutinho yet.
I just want to make one point, folks. Just going to budge in there. This has been one of the most craziest, strangest transfer windows that I can remember for a long time. Prices have been inflated. There's been a lot of drama. I was about to say action, but there's been a lot of deals that have gone close to the line. Now they all haven't got over the line, but they've gone close to the in line where we were going into opening day, hoping to make a couple of signings. But you look all around at our rival teams around the place. Apart from City, who just went out and they just bought every fullback they could possibly think of. You look at our other rivals. Spurs didn't make a lot of business. They bought a couple of signings today, but again, huge outlays, didn't make a lot of investment. Arsenal have had a disaster. Chelsea, the league champions, have had an absolute disaster.
Well, Barkley's just turned them down.
That's what it's going. Ross Barkley, if Ross Barkley and Chamberlain are turning you down to join the league champions, like what sort of mess are they in? Like because we're all so wrapped up with our Liverpool hats on. You have to look around the other teams. I know you're probably going to say the EV have gone world beaters with the millionaire clubs and all that, but
I don't think we'd be happy with any of those 9 signings.
No,
if
I
they
wouldn't.
came to Liverpool.
Maybe Pickford aside, I don't know if there's any of those that you'd be happy taking, and they played a hell of a fee for him as well. But it's been a strange window, and look. We're all pissed off. Nobody's more annoyed than I am. But look, without being cliche, you got to realise that we have a decent start to the season. We played exceptional. I was lucky enough to be there on Sunday at Anfield. We played exceptional football. We've qualified for the Champions League. I see Phil here smirking at me here now. This is probably exactly what he didn't hear. But we all have to get on. What's so frustrating is most frustrating thing is, it's not that we urgently needed these signings, I would go and say it. I'd say that it's that these signings would have taken us to the next level. That's probably the most frustrating thing.
And do any of these signings take us to the next level? I mean, let's first look at Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, right? Where does the Ox fit in to Liverpool Football Club? And what does he bring to Liverpool that we didn't already have? And does he indeed take Liverpool to the next level? Asif, I'll come to you first.
Well, he's not a centre back, is he?
Could be better than Clavin there.
Mate, does he take us to the next level? Mate, I honestly think we could have brought Messi, we could have brought whoever, mate. It really is about strengthening at the back. It's absolutely criminal, whichever way you look at it. That's the one area in the pitch that we just haven't improved. We've sold a £20 million centre back who's arguably better than some of those that we've already got. Does Ox take us to the next level? I'd have to say no, because I think we're already at a very, very high level. What we need are some leaders, some strong leaders, ideally at the back, that can actually take us to that next level. Because I think, the credit where it's due, we are pretty damn good already anyway. It's just these stupid goals and these schoolboy errors that just keep doing us over and over and over and over again. So to answer that question, no.
Welcome Oxlade-Chamberlain to Liverpool Football Club.
No, good signing there. I still think it'll be a good signing though, mate. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he'll take us to the next level.
Of course. Craig?
What was the question? I'm miles away. The Ox.
No, fine. The Ox. Does he take us to the next level? What kind of signing? What should we expect with the Ox at Liverpool Football Club? What can Klopp get out of him that he didn't have before?
A lot more than Wenger was getting out of him, I'd expect. if we think back to when he joined from Southampton, you know, that club that won't deal with us. When he joined Arsenal from Southampton at a very young age for a pretty high fee at the time, if I remember correctly. A lot of hype around him. He was nailed on to be the next big thing in English football. He has shown glimpses of it, and he's frustrated Arsenal fans a lot from what I can gather. He has it all, though, to be fair. He has the power, the pace, the energy, the skill. I'd expect huge improvements, and I think he knows that he's at the right place to improve and with the right manager. Look, I think it's a lovely bit of business. It's just not the business that we were hoping for. If this had been in addition to somebody, fair enough. But looking purely at the Oxlade-Chamberlain deal, it's great. I can't see anything wrong with it. It's a good player, homegrown player, Champions League experienced player. Player that can play in many positions on the field, and a player that will only get better under Klopp, so it has to be seen as a good thing.
Phil, I know that the Ox was your number one target in this transfer window. Now I'm just kidding, but just a bit of kind of a move away from obviously the defensive situation as we've covered. What do you think that the Ox is going to bring from a tactical perspective to Liverpool Football Club?
I think he can do as he's told. I think he plays a similar style of football to us. He's not afraid to run at players with the ball. You asked earlier on whether he takes the team to the next level. It's a hard question to answer. No, it doesn't, in terms of he's not a superstar signing that's taking this forward. But what he does do is take the squad to the next level, because the player that you've now got on the bench to come on or play a couple of these utility games with injuries and etc. to rotate the squad. Can he do a decent job and slot in better than some of the other people that were on the bench playing that role? Yeah, definitely. So that's definitely an improvement for that, and it takes that bit to the next level. As the guys have said, I mean, this isn't a case of, and I want to make this really clear. This isn't a case of, certainly for me, that I don't think we're good enough. I think we're really good, really, really good. I think we just needed a few, as Jonathan said as well. We just needed to strengthen that squad to make sure that when players are out and injured and everything else, we're still okay. And actually, we're still pretty thin. Even I know we've done centre back to death, so we don't need to talk about that anymore. But you know, I think it was Asif mentioned before. Bobby gets injured. Who fills in for Bobby? Well, Sturridge. Sturridge is injured. How much of the time? So it's pretty safe to assume that Sturridge will probably get injured at some point this season. I don't think you get very good odds on that bet. I don't even think they'd take it. What happens if Bobby gets injured at the same time as Sturridge? Then suddenly we start looking weak again, and we're playing more players out of position, and it becomes very, very unsure what we're doing with that. So I think the only position you can say that that's not the case is midfield, because we seem to have like an entire squad of midfielders.
You've hit the nail on the head there, I must admit. Liverpool have, I think, upwards of about 6 to 7 midfielders on the books at the moment. They're all playing a central midfield role. But, you know, again, Jonathan, as anticipated, Oxlade-Chamberlain, he wants to come to Liverpool. He wants to play in the midfield. Many people are joking about him being the next James Milner, and Klopp's just going to play him wherever he wants. Where do you see Oxlade-Chamberlain making? Sorry, Asif, did you want to come in?
Can I just say that we needed that money to replace Steven Gerrard?
Yeah.
Sorry, mate, I had to get that one in.
See, but the issue we've got there is that to be able to do that, all 7 of them have to play at the exact same time.
But no, Jonathan, go back to yourself.
Small details, mate.
Yeah, small print, baby. You know, what kind of, you know, essential midfielder do you see? You know, from just given my personal perspective, I almost see him as a natural successor to Adam Lallana. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to be used as the man to start the press. He's going to be used as the man to really get in front of players' faces and win the ball back as high as possible. You know, ironically, could that ultimately help us in a defensive way as much as in an attacking way?
To answer you've answered your own question there. Yes, that is the role that I said I see him playing. It's that top of the mid, whatever way you call it, top of the midfield three, the one that's doing the full on press straight away and is driving, biting at the centre half, biting up at the keeper, just leading the whole team charge. Will it help our defence? Yes, because look, again, like as you all know, I'm a bit of a football nerd, but you put pressure on your centre halves or the opposition centre halves, as their passes are going to be distorted. They're going to shank the ball out of play. They're going to misplace their tackles. And when we have the full court squeeze on, we're going to win the ball back high up the pitch. That takes the pressure off our centre halves, and we keep them whole momentum going. So yes, that will help our defence in a kind of in a roundabout way. I see Chamberlain. He's not going to be a starter. I see him as without being disrespectful to the guy, I see him as the perfect bench player for us, because he's one player that you can put on the bench that can cover 3-4 different positions
and do a good job of it.
And absolutely, and he'll put a shift in. He kind of, I just got flashbacks earlier today of Dirk Kuyt with him. That sort of player. I think he's going to become a bit of a cult hero. I think he's really going to get on very well with the crowd. I think the crowd are going to love him. He's the perfect player that we would have cried out for last January when everything went tits up and we were totally dead. That's why I think it was. I'm very happy that we signed him. I think he's a key addition to the squad. He's not going to be a first team starter, but a very, very key addition to the squad. And he will only blossom with Klopp. He is raw. He's extremely raw. Like, just look at his crossing ability alone.
I don't know. Maybe we should start him. Maybe we should have a midfield of Oxlade-Chamberlain, Milner, and Hendo, because England are winning everything these days. So I think having that midfield could be amazing. Do
you really want an Irish person to answer that?
It's coming home. It's coming home.
Yeah, the golden generation.
Wait until we sign Ross Barkley on a free next summer.
He'd probably change his mind again. It's actually Jim Boardman there, one of the friends of the show, has a very good tweet there. He just says, I hope Everton weren't relying on that 13 million to balance their books.
Could you imagine? All right, look, gentlemen, we're coming towards the end of what has been a very, very, very emotional podcast. Before we leave, I suppose it's only right that even though we've been talking about centre-backs all evening, we still have, a couple of quality centre-backs there chilling in the club. So, Klavan, Joe Gomez, Dejan Lovren, Joel Matip. Who do you want to be, and Jurgen Klopp? Who do you want to be starting as the two centre backs for Liverpool moving forward? Craig, go with you.
Jesus, that's a horrible question. Matip, but he's been a little bit suspect. It's Matip and I'm gonna say Klavan, because I think he plays better with Matip. I think Lovren's probably a better footballer, but I think Klavan seems to play better with Matip. I don't know. It's a hard question. Like, they're not one of them I'd like as my centre back, maybe, but 2 out of 4, I don't know. It'd probably be Lovren and Klavan, or Lovren and Matip, but for me, Matip, Klavan, even though Klavan's pants.
Asif.
Matip and Gomez, I guess. I think he probably deserves a chance. I mean, if he can actually take the next step up, we might have a very good centre back there as well. So I'd go with those two. Lovren, sorry, nothing to add there. Klavan, as backup.
Yeah, Gomez being the captain of the under-21 team. There's a leader in the making there, Phil. Who's your two? Good at it.
I think that's a really good shout, actually. Let's be honest. Gomez couldn't do any worse, could he?
Nope.
So let's give youth a chance, as we've said. England under-21's captain, good player. Had that horrible injury thing. He's on his way back now. So him and Matip, I think in an ideal world, I don't actually think that's what's going to happen. I think the centre-back pairing will be Lovren and Matip until Lovren occasionally makes a colossal fuck-up and Klavan comes in for a few games. And then he makes a colossal fuck-up and then Lovren will come back. But in a football manager playing on FIFA, heart in the right place kind of way, I'd say the same. I'd say Matip and Gomez.
Jonathan, you got the last word on this?
It's going to be Lovren and Mapic to start off with. I would have high hopes for Gomez.
You got high hopes for Lovren. I know you love Lovren. Don't even lie.
Lovren is going to stay in the first team. Let's not be on it.
Sorry, Phil, we couldn't hear you over your Alice band.
Oh,
he wasn't going to let the show go by with that, was he?
I had to find a way to
He's
get
an
it in
arsehole.
somehow. No minion, no minion. You're getting abused.
There is no minion. The Midgeon's pissed off. He's gone to the pub. He's furious at this transfer window.
FSG have taken back their minion, have they?
Yeah. That's why he's been deflating over the last few weeks. He's just been sucking the fucking life out of it.
Your energy.
Yeah, but look. I'll go back to the question. I would have high hopes for Gomez. I thought he was excellent on Sunday after initial fears by me, and I think that was reflected by a lot of Liverpool supporters. We all had a bit of fear about him when we heard Trent wasn't going to make it. I think when you look at when Klein and Trent are fit, he's going to be ousted out of the right back role. So I do think he will get more time as centre half, and I think that is his natural home. I just think it's going to take a bit of time for him to embed himself into the team as first choice. But it's going to be the two guys again.
Brilliant. Well, there's 10 minutes left until the transfer window closes, and as you've heard throughout this podcast, there's been no breaking news, so it's highly unlikely that Liverpool are going to make any more signings.
Well, Keith,
I'd like to give
is Lazar Markovic the new Lamar?
Well,
God.
Well.
What a depressing way to end. Fucking hell.
Mate,
Jesus Christ, guys.
Mate, we've got our 30 million net spend. There's nothing.
Well, there we go. I'm sure we could.
Oh yeah, do you know? I'll tell you what. We'll get our profit margins put on the back of a fucking shirt instead. Then.
Mate, do you reckon that's a coincidence? Every single sort of window, it's about 30 to 35 million pound net spend, and no VVD because that would have taken it to 90 million, wouldn't it, or something?
Well, that'll change though, won't it? Because obviously, I was expecting it, and I've already seen the first couple of tweets now coming out from journos that have got FSG's hands so far up their ass they can taste them, saying that we weren't allowed to go back in during this transfer window, but of course we're going after Van Dijk in January, guys. Get excited again. We're going to sign him in January.
Oh, it gives them time to get fit, I guess.
I think we can all really just really start to not believe what we see, and we all go out of this transfer market as real pessimists.
Cynical bastards, but rightly so.
Cynical bastards. Love it. Well, anyway, thank you very much, Asif. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you very much, Craig. This has been a lot of fun. It's been emotional. This was
a strange idea of fun there, lad.
Fun for me to hear all your thoughts on that. This has been the ARW Weekly Transfer Window Special. I've been your host. Have a lovely evening. Up the Reds.